Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're talking about being a Black woman navigating in the corporate world. I have Wendy Belleville on the show today, and she's sharing her experience about being a Black woman working in the corporate world. Get you something to drink, get you a snack, and come on back. Welcome back, Wendy.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Jesse, for having me again.
For sure. So, Wendy, one of the things you touched on at the end of the last segment was having the support of a husband. A lot of women don't have that support because, unfortunately, some of the men are intimidated by, their spouse who may make more money than them, who may have a little bit more insight on, certain, things like politics or education, things like that. Their spouse may have a higher level degree than they got. Why is it important for a man or a lady's husband to be supportive of her when she's climbing the corporate ladder?
It's a great question. And I do have that support from my husband. I think we can, when you have that support at home with a partner who respects your voice, respects what you do, it just helps you thrive even more. And so my husband, as I, climbing up the corporate ladder, he loved that. He loved to brag about, my wife's a director, my wife's a this, and now my wife's a CEO. And, he would make my lunches, or just, he would even put notes in them, and sometimes he got too busy, he couldn't do it, but always super supportive. He wants to hear about the latest thing at the office or the latest client that we booked, and I think it's just important to have that scaffolding and that support to be there for each other. But, a lot of women feel like they have to choose between their families and their career, especially if they start becoming successful. And if you have a husband or partner at home who's not supportive, who feels threatened, now, some women, I'm not the type who would shrink back from that and say, oh, well, I don't want to be as ambitious because what if my husband doesn't like it? It's like, you know me well enough to know that's not me.
Yeah.
I climb as far as I can climb and do as much as I can do. You got to get on board with that, but I think for a lot of women, they feel that, oh, I don't want to be more successful than my husband, or I don't want to be out there too much because he might feel threatened. If you're with a husband or partner who's threatened by your success, you may want to question the partner you're with. That's how I look at it. It's like this, I'm not going to be 50% of myself.
Yes.
I'm not going to dim my bulb to make someone else shine brighter, and no one should do that.
Yes.
So I think whether it's in a marital situation or any other, some sort of interpersonal dynamic at work, I think we all should just shine as brightly as we can and do all that we can and surround ourselves with people who are supportive, who are part of our camp. And if they're not, regardless of who they are in our world, then you have to take a closer look at that. And so I think that's having a partner, whatever that looks like, whether it's a spouse or a girlfriend, boyfriend, even a colleague who's just, there can be a colleague who you've been, team members for so long, and then one gets promoted over the other, and there's that friction. I just think you have to surround yourself with people who are supportive and in your camp.
Yes, 100%. And the reason why I asked you that question is because I know somebody personally like that. This particular female, she's African-American and she is married. And, extremely smart, extremely resilient, just resourceful, the whole 9 yards. And, she was able to start a cleaning business, and, it took off. but her husband had a different set of skills. He was not an entrepreneur. Like, he didn't have that mindset. And so she pretty much scaled all the way back because there was tension. He was jealous. He felt like she was spending a lot more time, getting the business off the ground and things like that. And when she scaled back, she was not happy. She actually fell into depression. I mean, it was crazy, but when she scaled back, he was happy.
Right. He wasn't threatened. He wasn't threatened anymore.
Right. Exactly. And I really, really, really talked to her. I was in her ear, and I wasn't playing favoritism, but I felt like this is what she was called to do. Mm-hmm. But, being raised by the traditional, parents, where the woman's supposed to be home and the man is the breadwinner, you're supposed to be cleaning and cooking. She fell back into that way of thinking, but it was hard for her. And I felt so bad for her.
That's a tough one. And boy, her story, is similar to a lot of women who they'd rather, to save their marriage or their relationship, they sacrifice, their own goals because they want to make the other person happy. Make the other person happy, but you don't have to diminish yourself in the process. And so did she ever go back and recapture her career?
No, which is crazy.
That's too bad. That's too bad. That actually makes me sad. Yeah. And that, again, I know I brought up in the last segment, that's we have to empower our girls.
Yeah.
I wish I had daughters. I have sons. I love my sons, but it's like, girls, just really empower them to just, climb as high as they can climb, do all they can do. Don't diminish it. I even always say, encourage girls, with math and science, vocations. A lot of, people think, oh, those are boy subjects. I mean, we all have to do math and science to get out of high school and college, but, those professions are really dominated by men.
Yes.
And, why? But, you've seen things like growing up that a lot of girls don't want to be, if they like a boy in school, they don't want to be seen as smarter than him because the boy won't like, her. I remember one time, this is just a silly anecdote, but kind of on point. When I was in 4th grade, I was the fastest kid in school. But they had this whole thing where they had all the girls race. Actually, it was 3rd grade. They had all the girls race in the yard in school, and then all the boys. And so I won the girls, and this boy, Darren won the boy race. And so they said, wow, because I was so much faster than all the girls, they had the two of us race, which wasn't something they normally did. And I smoked him. Wow. I mean, there's no other way I could say it. And I come from a family of sprinters and all that. And, but I was racing, my shoe came off, I put it back on, and I still beat him by a lot. Wow. And I was just a good sprinter. And he was my buddy before then. And after that, because everyone was just like, you got beat by a girl. Yeah. And this is a smaller, very silly example, but the kind of thing where his ego was frayed. And so that's an example of boys don't like to be bested by girls. Not when it comes to sports, not when it comes to boy things. If they feel it's a boy thing, like sports, and that there's no such thing, but I'm saying that's women, that doesn't change. Some of those feelings don't change as we get older, and we get into spaces that are usually dominated by men, whether it's a woman being the breadwinner and making more money, or climbing the ladder and being the boss, or whatever it is. A lot of men still are not comfortable with that. They're not comfortable reporting to a woman or having a woman make more money than them. So I think that's still permeates, and that's part of what we have to change.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I don't know if you know who Joyce Myers is.
I do.
Yeah, I give you, like her for an example, she's on the front line, but her husband Dave is kind of like in the background and stuff. And I know in the church arena in the area I'm from, a lot of people had an issue with that. As a matter of fact, when I moved down here to California, I moved down here to help my pastor with his church. Mm-hmm. He was an older Caucasian male and married, and he believed that women shouldn't be speaking or teaching. They should be sitting down in a church. And I disagree with that. And because the pastor that I had in Illinois, she was a woman pastor, and she was awesome. you know. So even though me and him was really good friends, even at that time, I felt like when he got me down here, it was just that I felt like he was trying to put that in my mind that, okay, women should be doing this, women should be doing that. No, because I'm sitting under one, the pastor, when I was in Illinois, and I know what he was trying to inject in me was not the truth, you know. And so there was many conversations that me and him had, because you know his wife would wait on him hand and foot, which was okay. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And their son, who was way into his like what 30s, you know, he took on the same mentality with the mother. And you know, I talked to the pastor about that. I was a little bit offended because I felt like he didn't really respect his mom. It was like, Mom, fix me this, fix me that. And when she was too tired to do it, he would get upset and become very angry at her, you know, belligerent, just, you know. And so my mindset was not in that space. So they couldn't really craft me to think like that, you know, because of where I came from and the things that I saw. I've seen women in power. I've seen women, you know, use their personality or their education and, you know, to get where they need to be. But being in this space over here, it was not allowed. And it actually caused a little bit of friction between me and the pastor, because I wouldn't think like the way that he wanted me to think.
Oh, I love that. I mean, and I'm glad that you were not indoctrinated into that, you know. And you bring up a good point, because you know, as career-minded as I am, and I always have been, I also love to cook and take care of my family and do those things too, but because I want to, not because I have to, you know. And I think that's the difference too. You know, whether you want to be a stay-at-home mom or work, whatever, just do what you want to do, but never subjugate yourself because someone else is threatened. Never diminish yourself because someone else can't handle it. I think that's the key takeaway. If you want to, you know, I work, you know, probably 60, 70 hours a week, but I do it at home, and, you know, and I that's what I like. And I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but I also, you know, I'm a high energy person. I don't sleep a lot. So I'm able to, you know, cook breakfast and do things for my kids, not all the time. And they're 20 and 16, and one's away at college. So they're kind of like, oh, we'll get it ourselves. You know, they're not little babies, but when they were little, all the time. And I like doing that, you know, I like doing that, but I also like, you know, I get a lot of personal satisfaction from my career. And so I could never be with someone who, you know, was threatened by that or didn't want that. And so, you know, that wouldn't be a good fit for me. You know, if I had a husband who said, you have to stay at home, if anyone tells me I have to do something or I can't do something, that for me is a challenge. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Just even if I don't want to, just because you said that. Like I'm stubborn like that. Like, if you're going to tell me I can't do it, that's the first thing I'm going to do. Don't tell me what I can or can't do. I'll do what I want to do. But I'm also, you know, I'm going to do, you know, I'm the family structure, and I'm going to do whatever I can to support my family comes first. But, you know, don't ever tell a woman like me or my mom or anyone like that, like, oh, you can't do that. Because we're stubborn enough, we're going to make that a call to action. So.
You know, and I was just thinking as you was talking, when you said me or my mom, I was thinking like, you're definitely your mother's daughter, because B don't play. I love me some B. B.
She still doesn't play. I mean, she, you know, my mom and I talk every day, a couple times a day. She's my best friends in the world. You know, we're very, very close. And everyone says you're your mother's daughter, and she taught me and I saw her, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, a Black woman in the workforce. She had a very successful career at Xerox Corporation, and just seeing her rise. I mean, she was just my first and best example of, you know, use all your skills, and if you don't have some skills, develop them. You know, go back to school and get another degree, or take a class, or do whatever you have to do, but you know, use all the parts of your toolbox, and then add more to that.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears a little bit, because I want to talk a little bit about politics in regards to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So after the election, maybe like 3 or 4 months after the election, someone at my job at work made an interesting comment to me. And his comment was, I guarantee you, they're going to have Kamala Harris in the background and going to push Joe Biden up front because she's a woman. What are your thoughts about that? Or do you think it's a truth to that after now that they've both been in the office for a while?
I think there is a lot of truth to that. I think
Mm-hmm.
she's been fairly silenced. I mean, I don't see a lot of her. I mean, I was a big supporter of hers, and thank God they got in.
Yeah.
but I feel like, and I don't know if it's because she's a woman. I don't know all the particulars. So obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not in their administration, but I feel like in some cases she has been fairly silenced. I don't see her out there. I couldn't even tell you what her key initiatives are.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's her fault. I'm just saying I don't see a big agenda coming from her. I mean, as the first female vice president and the first Black vice president,
Yeah.
Black and Asian, I wanted to see more. I know she's a very talented person, and so I feel like she's not using the full capability of her voice.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I don't know if it's by choice, but I think it's more of by design.
Yes.
By the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the political machine. Like I said, it's a big and nasty one, and it's there's a lot of cogs in that system. So I don't know the answer to that, but my take is that she's being put in the background on purpose. I think it served politically to have her on the ballot and to get votes.
Yes.
Because she got a lot of people that look like me and you to vote for that ticket. I think it was, let's get the Black vote. We need someone of color on that ticket. But governing is a very different thing. And I think, and I'm not speaking on authority on this. This is just what I think, and my gut feeling about this is that this is by design.
Yeah.
That she's sort of put in the background. And really put in the background because she served her purpose.
Yeah.
Of getting them into office. And now when we don't hear from you now, because and now as we're starting to eye 2022 and 2024 and all, coming up, what's going to happen next in the political landscape. I think, people still aren't ready for a woman in that leadership role.
Yes.
Not to mention a woman of color. So I think there is a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. I think as the elections, approach, we're probably going to see and hear from her a little bit more.
I hope so, because I want to hear her voice. I mean, I like I said, I like her a lot, and let's bring it, Kamala. Let's hear what you have to say, because I know she has a lot to say.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot going on in this country, and there's I'm heartbroken so often just when I see how this country, I feel like in some ways it's worse. I talk to my kids who are growing up now, and what was it like for me in the 80s, when I 70s and 80s, in terms of racism and for girls and all that. And I know we've made advances, but it just feels like the nastiness that we experience now. I know we experienced it then because I got called the N-word. I got called all kinds of things and all the things I've gone through, but it just feels like it's out and proud now in terms of the vitriol and their racism, and a certain person, we know kind of made that okay to do. Let's need to be hateful and be out there with it and not ashamed of it. And so I feel like we're really far back from where we used to be. And so I feel like I'm hoping all this is happening for a reason and everyone's going to kind of come back together. But that's why it's important for us to all use our voices and be honest and have really tough conversations and call things out when we see it. That's the only way we're going to get past this and be a decent society. Because right now the decency is gone.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Why is it important? Well, I'm going to ask you one question that's going to lead to another question. How can white women help African-American women in the workplace? How can they be an ally to them while they are climbing a corporate ladder?
That's a great question. And this is something I experienced, and it was a role that I was in. I won't say the company, but there's something called fake allyship. That's what I call it. Mm-hmm. Where someone purports to be an ally, like, I really want to hear about diversity and inclusion and I'm a supporter, but they're not really. Or they want to tick off that box or say that they're supportive, but when it comes down to it, they don't really want to hear your experiences.
Yeah.
They don't really want to hear, okay, here's how this shows up. let's say you're in a corporate environment and someone of color says, you know what, I feel like this culture is not very diverse that you guys have created. I think we need to do this, or I think you need to look at it this way. There's a lot of people who don't want to see, they want you there because it's good window dressing, but they don't really want to hear what you have to say, because they may have to reflect on themselves and what they haven't really been doing. And so I think, to answer your question specifically, I think listen, sometimes just be quiet and let us share our stories, and let us tell you what our experience actually is and not what you think it is. And for example, what I mean by that is, if you, let's say you're in a group of Black and white women, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian women. And the white women are saying, no, we're a diverse culture and we believe in diversity and we believe in this and we believe in that. Okay, that's what it says in the policies and procedures, but this is not our experience. Well, no, this is what I believe, but it's not our experience. And here's some examples of why we feel this is not a psychologically safe environment, because we feel the bias and the microaggressions. We feel all of these things that are saying that we're not really welcome here. So I think what white women can do is listen, look at, and this is white women and white men, but look at their own inner circles. Is your close inner circle at work or in your personal life, how diverse are they? Do you have people of color in your circle? Is it all people who look like you? If it's all people that look like you, then you're not really living a diverse and inclusive life, because you're living your life and you have your friends and your loved ones and all that, but how inclusive are you really? Even in your personal life, you don't have any friends of color. And I have friends of every color. I mean, I really pride myself on that. I try to walk the walk with that. And so, and there's a lot of Blacks too who don't have white friends. So, I mean, it goes across the board, but I think in the workforce, I think if white women really listen, and we're talking about white and Black here, white women really listen to when the Black women or the other women of color share their experiences of that particular company, what they're feeling, what you can do as a white person to be an ally, a true ally. And are there lunch and learns? Let's go to lunch, let's talk about, I want to hear your experiences. What are they doing that's contributing to the problem? Because a lot of times they're doing it, they're not even realizing they're doing it. Are you saying things like, wow, you're so articulate? Wow, or you're so smart. Like, I can't tell you, Jesse, how many times I've had people say, you're so well spoken. Well, what do you mean I'm so well spoken? For what? For a Black person? Like, what does that mean? I mean, I know what they mean. I'm a college educated, intelligent woman. Why shouldn't I be well spoken? That should not be a surprise to you. But you get that a lot. And so, I would say, catch yourself. How are you showing up? Is there bias and microaggressions that you're contributing to? And that's what I would say to white women, because we feel it, we see it. We walk into a room and people see us, the color that we are, often before they see that we're a woman. Like, Black is the first thing they see when they see me. And so, and so I think that's been going on since the suffrage movement, white women and Black women. There was not a lot of, people think that, all women are band together. Not necessarily. In the suffrage movement in the 20s and 30s and all that, white women were not supportive of Black women. And for the most part, it was not. And there was a lot of racism in the suffrage movement, a lot. People don't talk about that. And Black women my mom always said, you have two strikes against you. You're Black and a girl. So you got to work twice as hard just to be seen as good enough. And so I think just that allyship, I think that true allyship needs to be cultivated.
Yes, absolutely. Do you feel that you personally, Wendy, had to work twice as hard because of your color and because of your you being a woman?
Yep, I have. I know I have. I wouldn't have gotten a lot of the roles I had. I had to prove a lot because, well, she's, you never want to be a token. You never want to be hired because, she fits a lot. She's a girl and she's Black. So good. We're good on the diversity front. You never want to feel like you're that person. But I've had to really, I think that's one reason why I'm always the first to raise my hand and call things out, because I know that there's been a spotlight on me growing up. And I'm not the Rosa Parks and, I'm not the beginning of the civil rights movement. There's a lot of people that came before me who made things possible so that I could be here and talk about these things today, including my mother, who broke a lot of molds in her career. But I think that I have seen that. And it's, and I still am very mindful of that it's, I've had to show and really prove it in a way that my counterparts who were white did not have to. I didn't see that, where,
Yeah.
you know, I had to kind of do a little tap dance and prove that I'm
Yeah.
worthy of this role. And, you know, and the resentment when I would get promoted, the resentment that I would see from others, and not from other people, you know, other people who were white who got promoted, like, great, you well deserved. Me, it was like, oh, I guess you're going to take over the whole company now, huh? I guess you're going to, it's like, really? And there was one person in particular who we're good friends now, but I had to have a come to Jesus conversation with him. Like, no, we're not doing this. I am qualified and I'm the person for this role. And why shouldn't I get promoted? You know, I'm not taking over the world, but the people get threatened. So yes, I have experienced that.
Wow. You know, I'm trying to think how to share this. So I know someone who is who's a Black woman, super intelligent like you, super smart, educated, and she was promoted to a higher level of a management position, and she had to oversee a lot more people. The person position that she took, because the lady, you know, the white lady, she left, the position that she took, the white lady management style was a little bit different than hers. And so she got a lot of insubordination, I feel, because of the color of her skin.
Yeah.
The lady that was previous there before her treated the staff like crap, for lack of better terms. She wasn't as nice to them. She wasn't flexible. She wasn't compassionate. But the Black woman coming in this position, she started to be flexible, compassionate, understanding. And the staff was so insubordinate towards her. Like, you know, and I remember this fairly well because I would always pull her to the side because she would end up being my boss. And I would talk to her, let her know, you know, I got your back. I'm here to support you, you know, and just all that. And I remember one day I bought her some Starbucks coffee into her office for her birthday, you know, and I gave her a card with it, just said, I really appreciate all your support, your advocacy for the team. She broke down crying. I mean, it totally caught me off guard, Wendy.
Wow.
And she said, Jesse, since I've been in this role, nobody, none of the staff, nobody has given me positive feedback to show their appreciation towards me.
Wow.
And she was just saying how challenging it was. She opened up to me a lot. And of course, I never shared any of that conversation, you know, but that really kind of touched me, you know, because here she was somewhat suffering in silence because of a promotion, you know, utilizing her talent and her skills to get her where she needs to be.
And that breaks my heart. And if she spoke up, she'd be seen as an angry Black woman. So
right,
she's
exactly.
in a position where, and there are a lot of, like I said, there are whites who say, I'm not going to report to a Black person.
Yes.
Like they're innately, they don't, you know, I'm not calling them out as racist, but racist adjacent, you know, or something. That if you have a problem reporting to someone just because they're Black, you may be a racist. So, and the higher you climb up, if you're a Black person, you're going to experience that, especially a Black woman. Especially a lot of white men do not want to report to Black women. And I'm not saying all. My husband is white. My first husband was Black, and so I have a Black son, and I know, you know, we talked about that in another prior segment. But my husband sees that. My current husband sees that a lot. He sees racism and he sees what I've gone through.
That's awesome.
Moving up in the ranks that he never would have noticed before, but now he sees it.
Yeah.
And so it's there.
Yeah. And I'm so glad when I just said that's awesome that he see that. And I'm so glad of that because he get a chance to have a sense of what you went through growing up and different things like that. And you know, because being in those spaces, like me, I have a lot of my friends are diverse, for lack of better terms, and you know, they see, and when we're at the movies or the mall, they see when I walk past, like if I'm up front, walking in front of them, and they're in the back, you know, sometimes I don't even notice it, but like some of the white women, they pull their kids close, they clutch their purse. And they would say, did you see what she just did? And I'm like, no, I'm looking at the shoe store or something. They were like, you know, that white lady over there, she pulled her son close, or she grabbed a purse. And it's crazy. It's
crazy. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like me, like I see that stuff, but I kind of don't see it anymore. I mean, it happens so often, but my husband sees it. He's, you know, if we're walking, you know, people are staring at us, you see that? I'm like, oh, you know, like I'm so used to it, and we've been
Yeah.
married, you know, 5 going on 6 years. So he's newer to,
Yeah.
he's more newly, you know, just upset and always wants to go off on someone because
Yeah.
he's so angry about just the nastiness that he sees. And I'm like, I told you, I don't even have to say it anymore. I like,
Yeah.
you see it. You're seeing what I've been telling you.
Yeah. I would love, when we have to do a show on interracial marriage, because I would love to interview you and your husband together and just get
Yeah.
both of you guys experience from both
I would love to
sides.
do that. He
Yeah.
he would have a lot to share, Jesse, because he, you know, someone who has new eye. Honey, did you know that Black men are? I'm like, yes, I know. Yes. He sees it with me, you know, with us, and when he's with our kids.
Yeah.
You know, and we could talk. There's a lot of conversations we could have, because I have my son Christopher from my first marriage. He's a 6'3" young Black man, 20 years old in college. So my husband sees, you know, what Christopher goes through, and he's known Christopher since he was, you know, young. And then we adopted a Hispanic boy, Andrew, through foster care. And so we even see just culturally what that's like. But when when our family walks down the street, everyone's just looking like, what is that? But we love it. We love it. We're like, you know, we're very proud of our multicultural family.
Yes, awesome, awesome. And I promise you, I know this show is going to be good, because I just love how your mom raised you. I love, you know, the woman that you have became. I love your energy. I love that you're a fighter, you know, and you know how to do it, and you know when to do it. You know?
Thank you.
And so I think a lot of people are going to, especially women, whoever watched the show, they're going to get a lot out of this, because I think we do need more women like you on the front line who's able to speak her truth and be comfortable with speaking her truth. Because sometimes, Wendy, let's face it, some people are not comfortable with talking about some things.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. It's true, Jesse. And I always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because we're about to have a conversation.
Right.
Because exactly. That's how I can't stuff it. So if I feel like we need to have that talk, we're going to have that talk.
Awesome. So before we leave, what is some advice that you would give to a Black mother who's raising a daughter up in today's society, who may want to groom their daughter to be or to have a successful career?
So great question, a great way to end. I'd say help her find her voice. Instill in her a level of confidence, really provide that scaffolding of a nurturing environment. Let her know that she can be anything she wants to be. And when, you know, prepare her when people are going to hurl insults at her and try to diminish her, to bypass that. Look at Ruby Bridges, that little girl who, you know, integrated to school. Be powerful, be strong, be honest, be emotional when you need to be. Just being authentic means you're not always strong. Just means you're honest and truthful about what you're experiencing. But get her in, you know, in some tutoring classes. Help her make sure she has the educational tools and resources she needs so that she can go to a good college, or just any college, but go to college. Go to that next step. Get her degree. Show her that she needs to, like, I think the way my mom raised me, question authority. You know, look at all the layers. Just be strong and be a woman, be feminine, be all those things, but be strong. Don't let anyone diminish you or dim your bulb or make you be 50% of yourself. And I think that's, and then, but, you know, get them involved in whether it's a Jack and Jill program or mentoring programs, activities outside of, you know, depending on what kind of socioeconomic background that they have. But, you know, are there some extracurricular activities that can help her, you know, science camp that can help her, you know, with her mind and her goals, you know, get involved in a book club. There are so many ways that we can inspire our young daughters, you know, our you know, Black girls, to really be more than what society says that we can be. So if we, you know, if we are not, you know, we have to teach our daughters. I would end on this to say, teach her to be her biggest advocate, because if you are not going to advocate for yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. Your parents can and loved ones can, but really you have to be your own best advocate. And I'd say that's what we need to teach our young Black girls.
Awesome. Awesome. Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been such an honor.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to do more shows for sure.
I can't wait. I'm here. I have a lot of stories to tell, and we can have one about Paramount too.
Yes, we are. We trust me. I'm going to utilize all the your experience and wealth and knowledge that you've experienced or obtained through the year. So
yes, I'm here. I'm your gal. Thanks, Jesse.
All right, thank you. And that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you would like a DVD copy of the show, or if you would like to be a guest on our show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.